here. Okay, what else do I wanted to do? All right. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. We will be speaking about the power of broke as well as culture vultures. So I want you all to stand by here. Stand by. I'll let you know what time to. We got about 4 minutes, but I wanted to go live here with you. Damon John books. Damon John, Power of Broke, as well as Culture Vultures, the Damon Dash. So I am ready to go live here in a second. So just stand by. Stand by. Stand by. Let me go to A Life Media page first and share those. A Life Media Group. What was that? All right, everybody, what's going on? Definitely check me out. Success Scholar on Instagram and Success Scholar 1 on Twitter. Stay connected to the Success Scholar as well as look at my Harambe Radio Books page, business page. So definitely stay connected to that. We got some good stuff going on there. So it's definitely a good, great opportunity. The place to be. The place to be. Hope you are. I hope I see you at the Congressional Black Caucus as well. And don't forget to go to my website, successscholarhaki.com, to get my book as well as several other documentaries that we have on there. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I'm ready. I'm going to share this on my wall when you go live. All right, so definitely, everybody, check me out. Okay, yep. All right, brothers and sisters, thank you all. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hakia Me here, the Success Scholar. Thank you all for tuning in, listening. We're going to have us a good conversation here today, this afternoon. Hope that you all are ready for this. Man, let me make sure I'm good with this eLife Media Group live shot. Make sure that we are good and live. Let me click on that. Okay, there we are. Let me share that first and get you all ready to go. I know everybody wanted to tune in, so I definitely don't want you all to miss this opportunity to join me. Let me see. Let me put that on my Harambe page first and foremost. But it's a beautiful day, beautiful Monday. Had a good past week. But before I get into all of that, just want to thank my last week's guest, which was Brother Stephen, and we were discussing kidney disease, and so people have asked me, "Are you okay?" Well, our last 3 shows we've had conversations around health. I'm like, "Hey, yes, I'm doing well. I had an epiphany, nothing serious, but sometimes I'm in decent health, but I realize that we all can kind of have some wake up calls and really expand where we were actually. And so I just had an epiphany that we needed to discuss these things over the next days and weeks and months. So But before I get into this conversation, I know many of you are excited about this. For those that may not know, I'm an avid book reader, Haki Ami, the Success Scholar, and I co-authored a best-selling book, Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failure's Blessings, with none other than Les Brown and Dr. George C. Frazier. And, throughout that experience, as well as, just my background and, coming up in the streets of Baltimore, I was, kind of part of the hip hop culture, if you will. So for the most part, I can, honestly say that, hip hop has influenced me on many different levels. And so this is where, I get some of my street cred, if you will, and how I, attempt to get things done, and the streets taught me a lot, and I knew that, that wasn't necessarily a life that I wanted to live, but, just growing up and listening to many different artists, inspired me to really get into the understanding of what many artists actually experience through life. And, I wanted to share something that I sincerely believe two key individuals who have influenced hip hop through either, music and film and fashion. Well, both of these gentlemen have influenced hip hop through both of these. And, I'm speaking none other than Damon Dash as well as Daymond John. And the reason I came up with this is over the past few months or weeks, as I've been speaking about Damon Dash's new book, and you all can see it, at home, but let me show people in front uh, of that book. Here's one of them, Culture Vultures, and that's the one I'm going to be addressing first. But before I speak about those, I just want to mention that I'm also featured in this edition of the Northwest Voice newspaper, which is a local newspaper for those that are in the Baltimore markets. For those that are in the Baltimore area, I would encourage you to certainly get copies of that newspaper, and it services, and it's free, Owens Mills, Pikesville, Randallstown, Ricestown, Windsor Mill, and Woodlawn. So I'm reaching, some different people, fortunately for me, and, really making some things happen with that. But with that, I also, as well, am in this National Black Unity newspaper, and that's Brother David Murphy, and this is Mr. Kenny Brown in Baltimore County, and so he supported me rather recently in some things, and so I just thought it was a great opportunity to be a part of that. So looking forward to many great things coming out of that initiative. So and really reaching a significant segment of the market. But let me get into this discussion. Where's my notes? All right, yeah, right. I'm sorry, I had to show those newspapers first. But I'm gonna try to read, a little bit of Mr. Damon Dash's bio first. I'm not going to read the whole thing because, of course, for someone, that's worth a significant amount of money, you can believe that, he certainly would have a long bio, but I'll just start. Many people know Damon Dash as a music producer. Many people first initially knew him from working with Jay-Z, but he's also an actor as well as a movie director. And that more so is the direction that he has been going in, I'd say rather recently, over the past few weeks, months, and years, or however. So let me just read a little bit. He co-founded Rockefeller as well as Rockaware, so he got into fashion, not just with the music. So he had his own clothing line, and I'm not going to talk about the numbers of what they made, but I think something like $200 million, something like that. But he was born in 1971 in Harlem, so he's just a few years older than myself. He was a bright, actually, a bright young man. He won scholarships for playing lacrosse, actually. So it was interesting. Many people who may know him, they think that he was like growing up in the hardcore streets, but I mean, of course, he, had those connections to the streets, but he earlier, up until his mother transitioned, I believe at age 15, he was considered like I'm sorry, he did fairly well. His mother was very entrepreneurial and kept him well adjusted, if you will. So he pretty much had a good early life as well. But he wasn't totally, shall I say, he wasn't totally like a good child. And he got kicked out of school a few times. He got kicked out of, basically, I was listening to an interview for this. He got kicked out of pretty much all of his schools. And one time, as a young man, the last time I believe he got kicked out of school because he pulled up in his car, which he was making money. He was a street pharmacist, what they call pharmacist, and he actually parked in the principal's spot at his school. So I think that would certainly get you in some trouble as a young person. But I could imagine him, now that I have seen him doing several interviews. I can imagine him actually doing something like that, because if how he conducts himself and how he speaks. But he also, he got from the streets and making money. He always knew that he didn't want to stay in that life. And many people that get smart realize that there's only two places that's going to end up, and that's going to be either in jail or in prison. So he had enough street smarts to realize that was not where he wanted to spend the rest of his life. And so he ended up going to some clubs and going to parties. And as he was doing parties, he went to a party where Heavy D was at. Now, yeah, everybody know Heavy D, the old way lover. Where was he from? Yonkers, or man, some hip hop head going kick me. Wait a minute. Heavy D, Uptown. Let me think. Somebody let me know where Heavy D was. Brooklyn? No, not Brooklyn. Oh man. I'll tell you. My hip hop card need to be taken, but somebody can let me know. Mount Vernon, if I'm not mistaken. Heavy D was out of Mount Vernon, so I don't know how that connection actually happened. But Damon Dash knew that he wanted to get into the hip hop industry, and so from there, again, he was in Harlem, but somehow he got connected to Jay-Z, who was actually from Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. But later he got other acts, and they had, what was the first release, if I'm not mistaken, Hard Knock Life. Well, that was kind of what they sold like 5 million, and then they had the Hard Knock Life tour, and they went on a 54 city bus tour. And I heard some of the interviews that he did where he shared that he did that independently, and that was part of the breakup, because some people wanted to get their hands into that, and he said that how he did that independently, and so that was really interesting. And he had 9 #1 albums with Jay-Z, and as well, previously I knew he had something going with Aaliyah, but he said that later they got married, but he has like 3 children, one by his new wife, who I believe they are divorced, Rachel Roy, as well. After he got into hip hop and R&B, has a few R&B acts like Memphis Bleak, and I didn't know that. And I know he did some films with Benny Siegel out of Philadelphia. He did some other films as well with people like I'm sorry, I know that was One State Property, and if everybody know, I mean, many people may not know that he assisted Kevin Hart with getting his start. So in the comedy and film industry, and I didn't know that part, but it's really interesting because Kevin Hart is like kind of blowing up on some different levels, and so I wanted to really touch on a few of those and really look at some of the things in his book, and share some of the key insights. But the culture vultures concept comes out of, come out of what his experience was and what he believed was some of the negative aspects of some of the executive levels of the hip hop culture. And so let me get into that. I have his book right here, but before I do that, let me go live here on this. So first people ask, well, what is a culture vulture? So let me just share, and I don't want to. I got a few facts that I wanted to mention. I know I mentioned his bio, but what is a culture vulture? And he said a culture vulture isn't about skin color, race. It's about a person's state of mind or whether or not they live by honor code. So he talked about honor code in that, as well as a culture vulture is someone who will exploit a life and a culture they don't abide by, making money from it while completely disrespecting it. It would be like a black man who's a Christian making money off a Jewish culture and having one Jewish person fighting another Jewish person while the black man sits back and monitors the situation without ever giving advice to the Jewish culture how to respectfully further themselves in their community, right? And if that were the case, then the black man unapologetically would be defined as a culture vulture. So generally, he shares it as as a general context, but he's seen it from in the hip hop industry, how he describes it, and he talks about a few people in here, and I I'm not that heavy into the hip hop culture, so I didn't know all of this, but just seeing some of his interviews over the past few weeks, past few months, past few years, it made me begin to realize, that you can learn something from this from many different business dynamics, and as well as many major artists certainly could learn a lot from this. And so you see the book up front there, as well. But let me just kind of get into some of the book. I wanted to give the definition of culture vulture, as well as, he named a few people, of course, Liar. I don't know if you pronounced that correctly. Steve Stout, I'm not sure who he is. And Joey, Manda, and Todd Moshowitz. He named a few people. He drops names in here like really. And this is book, and I have it showing out in front of you. I got 2 copies here. And definitely, if anybody wanted to get copies of either of these, definitely you can holler at me to get copies of that. Send me a text, 410-2099-687. Again, 410-209-687. But I went to a few different chapters to share just, what, who he had in mind. Because as you see, he really, kind of talked to this Cohen person. In this section, Dame talked about Liar Cohen, Lyor Cohen, 360 deal, and gave his opinion why it isn't cool to do business with any executive that will rob their artists, especially Liar. Keep in mind, Liar's the guy that Dame said put the battery in Jay-Z's back that led to the divide and conquer negotiation that divided the dynasty of Rockefeller. Liar Cohen invented the 360 deal. He invented the rob the artist deal, which allowed the creative corporate to get from one level to the next. Creative corporate. Then when he gets fired or he retires or whatever happened over there, and all of a sudden he's all independent. But when I was independent 5 years ago, everybody said I was nuts. He was the main guy telling people, don't listen to Dame. He didn't think I was hearing about everything he was telling people. That's why I get at him openly. He's the cultural robber. That's whom I was referring to when I say that is Laura is Cooney. He's a whack juice, and whoever fools with him looks weak. So I suggest you don't mess with him. I wouldn't. I would never mess with Liar. If I mess with him, it would make me look like I don't have a backbone because I know he doesn't care about the culture. So he talks a little bit about that initially. So let me just kind of go through some of the chapter headings. But this book is written by, I'm sorry, people can't see me down there, but this book is written by both he and his barber, and they prepared this book for years. But some of the chapters, A Reasonable Doubt, we played our position, talk about Jay-Z. All Jay-Z had to do was rap. That's on page 37. He said Lee Daniels was being flagrant. That's a whole chapter dealing with the Lee Daniels episodes. People that cheat to win, spiritual business objective, cultural parasite. He even talks about the Jay-Z and Solange incident in the escalator. So it's more of an interviewing style. Let Pac know we still got mad love for him. Okay, yeah, mad, yeah, absolutely. West Side for life, yeah. He talk about DMX in here, and in one chapter he says, I taught Jay-Z and Kanye self-sufficiency. So, I think that's really interesting. He talks throughout this book about how he taught people, he didn't want people staying up under him. How sometimes people want to hold you and keep you ignorant. And he talks about how he encouraged people to build their own business, or diversify their cash flow, or to invest their dollars. I'm sorry, I'm kind of trying to fix this so you all can see my face as well. That's for the people at home that's not watching my other stream. So yeah, so okay, that's good enough. Okay, y'all can see me. Y'all can see my lips. But so let me look at this other chapter, page. Let's see. I said 71. These were some chapters. Let me finish reading through the chapters that I wanted everybody to actually see or hear. Is Dame broke? Many people some years ago, and it was fairly recent. They were talking about he's broke. He, had some challenges, went to court a few different times. So he discussed that issue. Many people believe if you're not like in the tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, you are broke. But, he was diversifying and making money in different places. So it was just like if you didn't see him, that doesn't mean that he wasn't making money. You just didn't see him. And so that's what he was saying. The real MC was Pac. That's why Pac didn't mess with those dudes for real. Oh, instant, bro. Instant. Add on to that, man. I mean, we did some stuff around. We did some things around Tupac as well. And he talks about Funk Master Flex. Funk Master Flex went off on him sometime. Many people know Funk Master Flex out of New York. Politics as usual. Corporate options, where he discussed how some people went corporate. And then, and I didn't get this far, but he talked about can't knock the blueprint. So let me see if that's actually what he's talking about, the blueprint, that Jay-Z put out. So I'm not sure if he talked about, and then he talked about the 360 deal a little later, Friend of Fro. He talked about Aaliyah and culture disrespect. Then he even has a chapter on Warren Buffett in here. And then one on black distribution. And I thought that was instrumental. I think a lot of movie people, individuals that are in films, And this is why I wanted to do this as I was reading it, because this book can be revolutionary, I believe. It certainly can be revolutionary with the knowledge that you can put out a quality product, and you don't have to go through various middlemen. And that's what he was saying in this, that you don't need a big $500,000 budget to do a video, music video. And this is why individuals are now able to kind of X out the executives. And many people didn't like it, and that's why they came up with the 360 deal. I recall him mentioning that. Matter of fact, here's a chapter here, the Internet Hustle, page 223. And I'm not going to dwell on that, but matter of fact, what chapters did I want to read? Page 23. Oh, that's what's a Vultures. Page 71. Secure business insecurity. Okay, yeah. And this is the piece where he's talking about when he was broke, or people were saying that he was broke in fashion and music and comedy. What does that tell you? Even Lee Daniels, even though he owes me $2 million, and many people saw that clip, I picked that. I put him in business. So if everyone that I put in business is doing well, then I must know something. Yeah, that's the critical part. If everybody like Jay-Z and Kanye and Lee Daniels and Kevin Hart, if all of them were doing or are doing well, like, where did they get this foundation for their knowledge? I mean, of course, not to say that, they don't have any talent, but, when people, invest in you, they see your potential. So that's what I'm saying with that. So that was another good chapter. Let me look at some of these other ones that I had here. Black distribution, the fashion game, the film game, digital benefits, the investment game. So I'm halfway through. Well, actually, like kind of 2/3 way through this book, but let me see. The digital benefits, the film game, digital benefits. That's what I think many people would appreciate, because if you're not, and he didn't make money as a rapper per se, he just, and he said that he didn't realize that what he was doing with the parties were actually promotions, officially known as promotions. So I think that that's some of the critical takeaways that I got from this book, is that strive to be independent, regardless of what you do. Keep your money out there. Sometimes people, don't want to take chances with what they do with their money, but, they say scared money don't make money, but, sometimes you gain experience over time. And what I know and what I believe that has happened with him, certainly a good testimony for other artists as well. I was just wishing that, someone like Prince or Michael Jackson, if they had read this book, certainly our communities could look a whole lot different, if they had a understanding. And I know technology is different, and maybe it's just him, having that level of freedom and having these ideas, because he can be free like that. But some of the older individuals may not have had that level of those insights to have these different options. So, but we are just about at the half here, but that's this particular book, of course. And let me see if I missed anything here. Daymond Studios. Oh, and also he do have Daymond TV, and I didn't even know about that until I was reading about the bio, until I was reading his bio and what he actually did with that. And Film On is who he partnered with to make that happen. So, and he has a fashion line with Rachel Roy. So that is, the first actual chapter or half of what I wanted to discuss, and we certainly are at the half-minute mark. So I'll just do a quick commercial, and yes, and I put my shirt up there. I don't know if people can see it. Dash Radio is awesome. I have the app. Oh, that's what's up. Thanks for letting me know that. Brother just said he has an app for that. A brother on YouTube, so you all can check out my YouTube page as well. But if anybody got a few 2 million, what's up, T-Wo? All right, thank you, brother. All right, that's what's up. I got a shirt that I'm trying to get pumping. Success leaves clues, success life. And let me tell y'all how that shirt got started. Like when that Tupac movie came out, many people know, like a brother mentioned Tupac. I was definitely a Tupac fan. I mean, even whether it be some of the street consciousness or the revolutionary, consciousness and black power philosophies of what Tupac was teaching. I actually came up a part of that, so much so that's where my middle name actually comes from. So, I was definitely influenced by Tupac. He was only like 2 years older than me. So I definitely had that consciousness, on different levels. But I felt happy that I was able to educate myself, and really about the world through that knowledge. So that was a blessing that I was able to wise up. I didn't stay, street with what I saw, around me. So so that was a blessing. But now for this next book, let me bring this here for those that this Damon Dash Power Broke, and I definitely have copies of this too, Power Broke. And but as I was, the Success Life. Let me show, people can't see it here, but everybody else can see it. Success Life, and many people got it when I showed that because Tupac had Thug Life around his abdomen area, and so that's what I got on this shirt. So I'm trying to make these hot, y'all. So if y'all know any artists that can wear the shirt, like I'm gonna talk about it, this Damon John book, definitely have them holler at the Success Scholar. But let me tell y'all at home, I want you all to, I'm gonna cut off here right now, and I'm gonna go over to my other site so I can broadcast. But definitely, I shared it on eLife Media so you all can see. It's on my main page, so go on my page and watch the rest. I'm about to do Damon John Power Broke for you all right here. So peace. All right. So I just had to end that. So, because I want to do another one here for my other page. But so lots of good things going on. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about Damon John. Yeah. So, and I actually met Damon John. I don't know if we got that picture, sis, or you able to pull it up. But if not, I actually met Damon John. I met him in Florida and actually became a, yeah. Thanks for showing that. So she showed that picture there. So if you want to leave that up, you can. If you can, or flip back and forth, however, if it don't take too much. So we had. I went to a book signing that he had, and shared with him my book, and I was like, look, how can I connect with you? Like, well, you're an author, I've got this ambassador program, and so I followed up, and and I assisted him to push some of his books into. Oh, I guess I'm live. Yeah, guess I'm live. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so I, connected to him to get some of these different books into different people, and I really got. Oh, I'm not live now. Yeah, there we go. 3, 2, 1. All right. really had an opportunity to really expand, his network. So, I read this book, and I got some really good jewels from it, and I believe that many people certainly would get a lot from it. So let me just kind of invite people in here for the next half as I share a little bit. Oh shoot! As I share a little bit more about this particular book, Damon John, who was born in Brooklyn, raised 19, and he was raised in actual Queens. And he started Fubu. Started that out of Hollis, Queens, and his mother was very inspirational in his initiatives, and she saw his potential. I mean, he worked hard as a young man, entrepreneur, had an entrepreneur mind, and he really got it going. He actually worked at Red Lobster early on in his youth, and passing out flyers and just doing other little odd jobs. But he had a vision for this particular company, and he started with making wool masks. His mother taught him actually how to sew. His mother taught him how to sew, and they made some wool hats, and he started this business out of his mother's house, actually. And he didn't have much money to finance this operation, so his mother actually put up her house, $10,000. Wait a minute, was it $100,000? Yes, for first mortgage. It was actually $100,000 mortgages her house. How many mamas out there are gonna pull out a mortgage for their sons, to build a business? Not many, not many. But his mother, had a different mindset. She actually later on, when he needed some money for financing, she later she did another mortgage, but she also put an ad in the New York Times around, funding. I remember reading it in Power Broke. But speaking about this Power Broke book, and of course I do have copies available, but I'll just read it back. Damon John has been practicing the Power Broke ever since he started selling his home sewn t-shirts on the streets of Queens. With no funding and a $40 budget, he had to come up with out-of-box ways to promote, and launched his FUBU brand into a $6 billion $6 billion global phenomenon. But it might not have happened if he hadn't started out broke, with nothing but heart full of hope and ferocious drive to succeed by any means possible. Far from being a liability, broke can actually be your fuel for success as an entrepreneur, Damon says. Why? It forces you to think more creatively, use your resources more efficiently, and connect with your customers more authentically, and market your ideas more imaginatively. It forces you to be true to yourself, stay laser focused on your goals, and come up with innovative solutions to make a meaningful mark. So let me share a little bit, of some of the key points of this book. And this book came out, 2016? Yeah. Was that long? Okay. Power Broke, Rise and Grind. So he actually interviewed several people, and some of these people, I look through and I try to think of whose story that I believe was more advantageous to my audience as well. Certainly, many people know about Kevin Plank from Baltimore, founder of Under Armour, but many people don't know that, and he talks a lot about that, in several interviews, that Kevin Plank didn't have money to pay for tolls at one time to get back, home. So I was like, I would be terrified. But he had to pay a fine, and he couldn't even make it home. But and now Kevin Plank is worth four something $billion in Baltimore, and he's gobbling up properties all around Baltimore. But let me look at what page is that? What page is that? Several other people that are in here. Kevin Plank and Mark Burnett, and that's the founder of the show Shark Tank, who's actually in here. Matter of fact, let me look at him. Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 40-hour work week, 4-hour work week. I'm sorry, but let me look at this here. Let's see here. 209. Okay. All right. The thing that struck out about no. This is the wrong page. I apologize. Let's see. 239, not 209. Okay. I'm kind of going in the back, but I'll read through and let you know the different people that are actually in this. But television producer, best-selling author Mark Burnett. He's the founder of Shark Tank. If you're smarter than a fifth grader, you can become an apprentice, then a contender. Out of that, hopefully, you'll be put through your paces and become a survivor. By the time you become a shark, you will certainly have found your voice. Okay, here's where I get to suck up to the boss. Only not really, because Mark Burnett has more broke in his backstory than just anybody in this book. These days, you might know Mark is one of the most successful television producers in the business. Time magazine calls him one of the world's most influential people, with almost 3,000 hours of primetime content to his credit, including shows like Shark Tank, Survivor, The Apprentice, and The Voice. But what most fans of these shows don't know is that he started out a working class suburb of London. I didn't know that. With just enough to get by. His father worked the night shift at the local Ford plant. His mother worked the late shift at a car battery factory next door. Basically, he grew up in a factory town where almost every house was identical. Folks had the same job, the same dreams, the same circumstances. Okay. I never noticed that we didn't have any money, he says, because everyone was in the same boat. That's how it is in a hardworking families. Mom and dad work like crazy to put food on the table and keep a roof over their head. And kids don't even notice the sacrifice, at least not right away. When money's tight, they take on extra work, and the kids don't always notice that either. But Mark noticed, even as a kid, he paid attention to the details, to the story behind the story. That was one of the skills that make him such a success in television. He's such a great storyteller, and here he's got a great story to tell, his own. So this is one of the founders, and I didn't know he had these other shows too: The Voice, Survivor, The Apprentice, The Apprentice. Yeah, right. Donald Trump's Apprentice. That's right. I heard Dr. Randall Pickett mention Mark sometime. I didn't catch who he was talking about, and now I made that connection. As a matter of fact, Dr. Pickett going to be coming into town soon. The takeaway, one of the stories behind the story he picked up was on a theme of regret that seemed to run through his house. My mom was always talking about how they should have started a business, he remembers, or they should have saved their money and opened a pub. She was always dreaming about something bigger, something better. The takeaway for Mark was that he didn't want to have those same feelings of regret when he came to making his own way in the world. That fear of missing out, of leaving an opportunity on the table, it's what drove him, he says. So I heard him say something in another interview how several people, you would think people came from poverty. I'm sorry, people came from affluence. That's not like always the case, I just understood that from reading several books like The Millionaire Next Door. It made me realize that sometimes wealth does change. Everybody that had wealth, sometimes people blow money, and it does happen. and you're not necessarily automatically stuck to a life of poverty. And this is where, how I'm trying to share my message, because as I make this continued growth and aspirations and transition, there's been challenges, but, I never thought that I couldn't do better. I never thought that, oh, well, let's just give up. Let's just rant and say how, everything is impossible. So as we continue to evolve and make these things happen, I just want to encourage everybody to, just step up. But some of the things that he talked about, in this book is, understanding the power of proof of concept in your business. Do your business actually has some viability? And there are several books that actually help individuals to go through that process to know, does what you're doing actually make any sense? And do you have a viable product? So sometimes you got to do a test market group. And, fortunately for me, being a part of several network marketing companies over the years, I've been able to really assess the balance between, how some people say, oh, you can sell any product and get wealthy. And that may be possible sometimes. And this is why when people make statements about, the difference between a leader can sell anything or a product, sometimes depending upon your team, like he talks about the power of your team as well. And matter of fact, he mentions several books that actually got him to where he was. And he talks about Think and Grow Rich. And he mentions the Kiyosaki book in one of his interviews. It may be on a Breakfast Club interview or one other interviews that he did. But those books, and that's why I'm just like, man, when you know that you've read these books and you've been around people that have read these books, like Mr. Joel Dudley, Senior, Dudley Hair Care Products, who read Think and Grow Rich 300 times over his life. And I realized, like, wow, like, I'm not that far different than some of these people, right? When you you begin to show up where they are, and you begin to speak where they are, or interview them, or they interview you, or they invite you to their event and allow you to speak at their event, you begin to realize that regardless of where you started off, you're not who you once were. And that's what I've seen that, and I'm continuing to see that. So the power broke again, going back, rise and grind. So he talked about several people in here. Jay Abraham, turn your problems into solutions. Now, I've heard of this gentleman, but he said that this is one of his most influential persons that he know. But as I look through this and try to get to this page, okay, yeah, here it is. But I recall him saying, people always ask me why I go to these conferences. And I remember, I think I read it in here, or maybe reading his interview where he said he went to this conference, and I think I wrote it down. Well, first he let LL Cool J wear his outfit, on a Gap commercial, I believe, and people thought that his company was bigger. That's how he got some major orders for, product inventory. But he also went to conferences, and he didn't pay the exorbitant vendor exhibitor table that people, but he was able to go up in there and, get some orders from people. What the Magic Conference, I'm not sure what that actually is, but maybe I might can go there with this shirt. I don't know. I don't know if I should, roll up in there like, hey, anybody want to get this Success Scholar shirt? What's up? I might have to change the colors a little bit, maybe make it a little bit more flavorful. But But that's the one shirt I have on top of some of the other products that I have. But yeah, yeah. But let me just mention this Jay Abram, and but let me mention some of the people that he interviewed first. I think that's a good way to expand on what the power of broke actually is. And now, matter of fact, he wrote the forward by Gary V. I can't pronounce his name. And matter of fact, just a couple weeks ago, I did. Gary V was in town with Tony Robbins, and I was there, and it was really good to actually be present at this. But let me kind of read the forward. Well, oh, Russell Simmons wrote a forward too. I firmly believe that you should only read business books from people who have actually built businesses. Damon has done just that, and here he breaks down the theses and religion behind exactly how he did it. You have to understand that broke isn't what happens in your wallet. Broke is a mindset. It's about tapping into that state of desperation that leads you to tremendous creativity. I was in a game of broke before, and I even knew what the game was. And here Damon John deconstructs this crucial concept. Uh, Mark Cuban wrote a forward. Let me read that. Damon knows how to make things happen. He knows the difference between a one-upreneur and an entrepreneur, and he lays it out all in these pages. What a kick it is to read over his shoulders, and he shares his hard-won wisdom. This guy built an empire from the streets of Hollis, Queens, and he compares notes with other visionaries who also found ways to beat the odds and make it to the top. His new book is so inspiring, so insightful, and so invigorating. I'm glad that he took the time to share this mindset with the world. That's Mark Cuban. So that's the forward. But let me, in my last couple minutes, share a few of the be resourceful. Steve Ike is his name. Be yourself. Asia Brinley, honor your truth. Be relentless. Rob Durdick, Christopher Gray. Look under every rock for every last dime. Yeah, right. Be delicious. Gigi Butler, Faith and Flower. Abraham. That's the one I was gonna, share with you. Kevin Plank, Protect This House. That's Under Armour. Be different. Mosiah Bridges and Tramisha Morris. Tim Ferriss, The Power of Humility. Josh Peck, This Is Where I Need to Be. Broke Isn't Just Personal. That's chapter 5. Be Small, Linda Johansson James. Ryan Dice. Be Visionary, Lauren Riddinger. And chapter 6 is Mark Burnett, Survive and Thrive. So let me quickly, 110, see what this gentleman is talking about. Let's see, I had it on here. I think I closed it up. Yeah. Turning your problems into solutions. So to look at Jay Abraham, a leading marketing consultant, advisor to Fortune 500 companies, best-selling author, sought-after growth strategist. You never guess he came from the modest beginnings, but he'll proudly tell you his father was a salesman, and he grew up in Indianapolis in a small 3-bedroom house with gravel driveway, no garage. He had to walk 20 blocks to school, and that's where education ended right after high school. He married at age 18 and had 2 kids by the time he was 20. So basically, he had the needs of a guy twice his age and none of the tools needed to make them. Only thing he had really was drive. Okay, so he was also smart, whip smart, as you can tell right away if you talk to him or read one of his great books. But that didn't come into play for a while. After all, smart doesn't always get you a job. You just need to put yourself in the right place at the right time and maybe pass yourself off as someone with the right set of skills. Trouble is, that's sometimes easier said than done. The world didn't care. Jay says of the first real job search, I couldn't get a job. Really, all I could do was get a desk and a chair. Some days it was just a chair. The one company that set me up told me if I could sell for them, work on commission, nothing was guaranteed. And when you only eat if you earn, when your kids only eat if you earn, you figure out very quickly what works and what doesn't, what works better, what doesn't. And that was the beginning of my marketing education. So I'm gonna look him up. I've heard his name a few times, but and I don't want to get too far into his story. I don't have that much time, but I just want to, close and say that regardless of your circumstances, regardless of where you were, both of these gentlemen, both Damon Dash, single parent households, what you would, call a single parent household, though, both had a burning desire to achieve, to raise up, to do something differently, to be more, have more, become more. And, there are certain attributes and skills and talents and strategies that you learn from listening to different people. And, you learn what works, what doesn't, and hopefully, you can fail fast and fail wisely. And hopefully you don't get burned out here in the world where individuals just want to take your money for your expertise or for their perceived expertise. And so I just want to encourage everybody, definitely holler at the Success Scholar, definitely get these books, Power Broke and Culture Vulture. Certainly you can get them from me. Hit me up, hakiami@gmail, or inbox me here on Facebook, or hakiami@gmail as well. Hit me up, stay connected on my Twitter, Success Scholar 1 on Twitter, Success Scholar on Instagram. A lot of good things are going on coming up here in the Maryland area. The local State Central Committee will have Dr. Maya Raymore Cummings speaking, coming at the wife of our Mr. Cummings, Congressman Cummings. So that's coming up on September 17th. So definitely be present for that. And also I am in the National Black Unity newspaper. Definitely get your copy, National Black Unity newspaper. Get your copy. It's online as well, the Black Portal as well. I'm in here, as well as the Northwest Voice newspaper. I'm in here as well. So just making moves, make things happen. Definitely share, like, subscribe, be a supporter, be a donor. Go to my website, successscholarhaki.com. Invite me to your local empowering speeches or events so that I can share some of my key insights more. I have several presentations, amazing, phenomenal presentations that I believe sincerely would take your business to the next level. It's time to go to the next level. I will be at something at the Congressional Black Caucus coming up in the next couple weeks, and looking forward to that over the next few weeks. A lot of good things going on this week. But I just want to share, so definitely get these books, stay connected, follow me on Instagram, Success Scholar 1 on Twitter. And yes, I'll have something coming up in October, a strong networking event, working on having Brother Darius Stanton, maybe, and some members of the Maryland Legislative Caucus, and some very entrepreneur-minded, super scholars and super entrepreneurs that's ready to take things to another level. So we're going forward. Next week, I'll have a phenomenal lineup. Going to have perhaps a guest joining me, but I'll have a discussion with around 2 books: Omarosa's new book and Hacks book. Hacks by Donna Brazil. So those are the 2 books that I'm going to do next week. So that's going to be dope. Everybody's looking forward to that. That book is hot. So, so again, we had entrepreneurship and politics, economics and politics. So this week was phenomenal entrepreneurship. If you get these books, work with me. I'm, definitely available for speaking, moderating, as well as some coaching to get you to another level. And it's your time. So definitely holla if you want to get a Success Leaves Clues shirt, Success Life. I got some more of these ready, and we're going to get some more of these ready to go for you. All right. So I'm out, y'all. Stay connected. And until next week, we are out.